Okay, so this is going to be a three-part video. First part's going to talk about Pkers and why people hate them. Second part's going to be about bounty hunter worlds and what I think about them. And the third part is ways I think Jagex can improve Pking. Now, the first part of Pking is shit-talking. Huge problem. If you can see right here in the video, first thing the guy says is KYS, kill yourself. Now, shit-talking is a huge problem in the wilderness and is one of the main problems, main reasons that people hate us. I mean, essentially, we're assholes. All we do is we kill them and then see you, buy, slave, kill yourself. Really, it's stuff you should expect from little kids. I mean, I try not to shit-talk as much as possible. But when you have Pkers playing that aggressive play style, player versus player, you're gonna get that type of interaction. Now, another reason people hate us is because essentially, like I said before, we're assholes. I mean, we enjoy playing the game in a way that takes away from their game style and essentially ruins their play style. Now, a short story explaining this. Me and a friend were doing the demon flesh mobs up in the wilderness, and we're just sitting there, and here comes a level, I believe it was like 113, full Armadillo, dual ascensions, fury, ornate, etc. And we're like, what the fuck? I mean, many PKers would have that reaction because basically, and he wasn't at first, like, he was acting so stupid that at first I thought he was just trolling us. Like, it was that bad. He wasn't protecting item, and he wasn't using any abilities. So we got him to start using abilities. We're like, EOC is a lot better for PVM than Legacy, which is true, 100% true. And so basically we just waited until he scald misclicked on us and we killed him. PK'd the dual ascensions. It was like 70 mil split total. And like, honestly, I believe it was a person's younger brother or sister who was on their account. And I mean, that's what a lot of time what you see is PKers like screwing people over like that. And I mean, I love Pking. I'm never gonna stop Pking because that's what I enjoy about the game. I mean, I love that aggressive interactions with other players. But if you look at it from that perspective of where we are ruining the playstyle of other players, then you can see why some people are going in rune labs and asking for like non-PvP wilderness. Asking for PvP to be safe because they don't want to lose anything, and it's not good for Pking when you think about it. If you have that many people calling for its removal, Jagex are gonna have to deal with it sooner or later because their player base, their customers are asking for it. Now, when a new release that's coming out is Duel Anywhere, and this I was actually extremely excited for, but once they announced that it was going to be safe PvP, then I became much less excited because PvP is meant to be risky. You're meant to lose stuff. It's supposed to be that risk that makes it rewarding and makes it also fun. I mean, if you just have people going around like being able to fight other people without any risk, then what are they gonna do? Do you think they're gonna go in the wilderness anymore? I mean, honestly, personally, I doubt it. Now, second part of this video is on bounty hunter worlds, and this kind of ties in with another problem with Pking. And that problem is one-itemers and no-riskers. Now, One-itemers, huge deal, huge problem in Legacy interface, because by the time you find Legacy combat mode, World 18, if you've ever been there, you know the problem. By the time you find an actual fight with someone you want to fight and who's risking, you've got about 4 food left from the one-itemers just attacking you. Now, they don't expect to kill you. What they're trying to do is do as much damage as possible so that when you die, they get the loot. So, Bounty Hunter World's Mod Pi has said that they're going to be non-+1, which at first I'm great, it's going to work out, but that's not really the case when you think about it, because, I mean, who's going to go on there and risk anything when you can't protect items? So basically, no one's going to be using noxious bows, no one's going to be using Zarites, no one's going to be using anything that is worth anything. So it's probably going to come down to people using Death Lotus darts, blisterwood weapons, that type of stuff. And that's not the way Pking was meant to be. Pking was meant to be high risk, high reward. Now, true, you might get loot from, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that there's going to be kind of how the old Bounty Hunter worlds were, where you get additional drops based on the other player's risk value. Once again, that's not confirmed, that's just a wild guess on my part, which, if it's completely like the old system where you only get drops based on the other's risk, you don't get their actual items, that's going to be a humongous blow to Pkers, because that really no one's risking anyway, so what are you going to get? But if you get drops based on, you get the other person's gear and their equipment, plus an additional drops, rare drop, random drops, then that might be able to provide incentive enough for other people to go on there. Because if it's just people not risking and you not getting anything, it's gonna die immediately like the Crucible did. Because what's the point of going on there when you can fight people in the wilderness and actually get weapons, get their gear, that type of stuff. But that's just what I feel that Bounty Hunter's gonna end up being if they don't do it correctly. Now, I know Mod Pi has been being very careful on this. I believe he's the one of only 2 Jagex moderators or JMods that have been working on this, and it definitely seems like they're being very careful. They're not rushing anything, which is a good sign. So they're obviously putting a lot of thought into it. But one thing that personally I think they should do is ask Pkers what needs to be done, because honestly we're the ones that are gonna know what's wrong with Pking at this point. And I mean, not ask like 1, 2, 3 Pkers who like PK a lot. I'm talking about bringing in a huge amount of players, either starting a forum post or something like that, and actually getting a huge amount of feedback. That way that the feedback is both accurate and it brings in not just a few players, but it brings in and it considers a lot of people. Now, the third thing I wanted to talk about is ways that Jagex can fix Pking. Now, majority of this video is going to be that, because really Pking's gonna die. I mean, it's pretty much already dead. I mean, besides Warband, there's really not any difference to the Pkers in the wilderness. I mean, it's usually the same 60, 70, 80 people who are always on, and that's something that is a major problem, because you don't get that variation of Pkers, and without new Pkers coming in and refilling those slots of Pkers that leave, it's gonna gradually just die out. Now, I made a forum post about this. I'll put the quick find code in the link in the description. Well, mostly only the quick find code, because I know some of you guys are iffy about clicking links into the RuneScape forums, but really the wilderness hasn't been changed. I mean, yeah, war bands, but that only works on revitalizing the wilderness for about 15-20 minutes. And half of those, if any of you guys don't PK in warbands friends chat or whatever, you know what I mean when I say that it's shit. I mean, you'll fight one PKer, all he does immediately, he puts up protection prayers and just runs and that type of stuff, and then once he ends up telling, you get another fight with one of his friends, and that's not really fun. I mean, some of you guys might find that fun, but personally, it's not really what I want. But what needs to be done is Jagex needs to rethink the wilderness. I mean, yeah, the barren landscape, yeah, that works, mysterious, that type of stuff works, but you need to keep adding stuff in there that'll bring out new players in there, and it'll introduce them to Pking. So, I mean, lava strike worms, that works, but half the time people skip that. Like, I've had PVMers tell me that they just skip that task because it's in the wilderness. They don't even come out with 3 items because they're gonna die. So, one idea I had was a part of the wilderness where you get the high leveled ores and that type of stuff, but you maybe like concentrated like rune deposits, that type of stuff, where you might get double drops or triple drops or increased XP for being in that high risk. So basically you got the high risk, high reward scenario. And another idea I saw on the forums post, I believe it was Rune Labs, was where this guy had an idea for a new boss that was up there at the northeastern wilderness volcano up there, 50 Wilderness, where its drops would be good enough to bring in PVMers and that type of stuff, but it would also be hard enough to encourage them to use those better armors and gears, and maybe make it multi-way zones so that 3 or 4 PVMers can fight that boss, but they can also help each other if a PKer comes and attacks them. Now, that's not the only thing. I mean, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon, because those are more major updates that would take time. The coding would take time for those and that type of stuff. But another thing, like, you could start adding items, or a PK shop, or a PK point shop, and start making people want to go out. So, one idea one of my clan members had was for like a jagged knife, where I know if any of you guys have PK'd by the lever or that type of stuff, that slashing the web is fucking annoying sometimes. Like, I've slashed it maybe 6, 7, 8 times and it hasn't been cut. So how about a jagged knife that 100% of the time will cut those webs? That was Zaro Ignis, was the player that came up with that idea. Or like add-ons for PKing, like ancient PKing gear, such as like we have the Rage Fire and Glaven and Steadfast Boot upgrades. Why not start adding upgrades for gear that are most commonly used for PKing? I mean, that could possibly help, like, and encourage more people to go out and fight and go for those drops, instead of just putting them for like PVM only. I mean, there's a huge amount of things that Jagex can do. I mean, like I said, I believe I said in the beginning, is the tutorial. I mean, I haven't played the tutorial recently, but there's nothing in there about PKing. So when PVMers are killed, they see it as a part of the game that should not happen. So maybe put something in the tutorial about Pking, about fighting other players. That way when they come across that point in the game, because they will come across that, they're not completely blindsided. Also put something in there like beware of like, well, this can tie in with the Pking and the player interactions, is something about luring and that type of stuff. That way once again you don't get that new player who gets lured and that type of stuff. So I mean there's just a huge amount of things that have been done. I mean you can update drops, I mean, you can up the revenants. Besides like graphical updates and being moved, they haven't really received any drop buffs or anything like that. You can just add more monsters and stuff like that to the wilderness. Maybe monsters that you've already had in game that wouldn't take too much time to add them to these other areas. And just XP buffs or something like that, that'll make it worth going into the wilderness. I mean, if you look at the King Black Dragon, for example, they added that artifact north of Edgeville, well, north of the monastery, where you can just teleport straight to the King Black Dragon. That completely took away the need to go through the wilderness. I mean, yeah, if you go through the wilderness, you get, I think it's a damage buff, maybe a loot buff, but why would you risk going through the wilderness with max tier gear when you can just teleport from Edgeville and get those like 20-second, 30-second kills without the damage buff or anything like that? It just doesn't make sense. Another thing is the Chaos Elemental. I mean, I killed it for 500 kills, I believe my loot video was on, and without the loot from Pkers, I don't even think I would have topped 10 mil. Which, I mean, then again, it's not that hard of a boss. It's geared more towards low level and mid level players, but it's in the wilderness. You're risking your gear and items. You're risking losing them to other players, so you should get a loot buff or something for that. I mean, it makes logical sense that if you want to risk more, you should be rewarded in the process of that risk. I mean, wilderness agility course, once again, I mean, true, no one goes out there with any items, but maybe add some monsters to that which would force them to use items, maybe increase the XP or something like that. Because right now the wilderness, it doesn't really have anything worth it. I mean, green dragons, the only thing that kills those are bots, and doesn't really seem like Jagex is doing too much about those. I mean, they had that bot ban, like fuckfest or whatever it was called, and that lasted for what, a few weeks. Now all you see at green dragons is green dragon bots. I mean, there's just major problems with Pking at this point, and honestly that's the only reason I play this game anymore, is for Pking. So once that goes, I mean, what else am I gonna do? I mean, duel people for nothing? Well, I mean, that's pretty much what this video was about. I mean, I'll probably add some music and you guys can finish watching it, but I mean, nothing really is going to happen. I mean, they've already, the players there aren't going to come out. They're mostly just going to sit there and talk. I mean, they don't threaten to DDoS me anymore or anything like that. So, I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, doesn't matter whether or not anyone sees this. That's just my thoughts and stuff about Pking, why people hate Pkers, and Bounty Hunter. So like I said, I'll post a quick find code for that Rune Labs or Rune Forums post. And so thanks for watching.
United as one. Shiz, writing our story as we go. United as one.
Welcome to the archive. You are now entering Pandora. Imagine yourself on this distant planet, engulfed in color and beauty. A civilization thriving and living as one. A habitat so alive, it illuminates with wild, unimaginable colors. A landscape so vast, yet so interconnected to all aspects of life. While the sound of tribal drums fill the air and bring nature to life. Welcome to the archive. You are now entering Pandora.